was 23 years of age, he first published a poem, and it was hailed by the whole nation with enthusiasm and delight. His good star perpetually shone upon him. A reputation had never before been made so rapidly. It was universal. The multitude extolled the same poems that formed the wonder of the sage in his closet. There was not one dissentient voice. It was at this time, in the height of his glory, that he became acquainted with Elinor. She was a young heiress of exquisite beauty, who lived under the care of her guardian. From the moment they were seen together, they appeared formed for each other. Elinor had not the genius of Woodville, but she was generous and noble, and exalted by her youth and the love that she everywhere excited above the knowledge of aught but virtue and excellence. She was lovely. Her manners were frank and simple. Her deep blue eyes swam in a lustre which could only be given by sensibility joined to wisdom. They were formed for one another, and they soon loved. Woodville for the first time felt the delight of love, and Elinor was enraptured in possessing the heart of one so beautiful and glorious among his fellow men. Could anything but unmixed joy flow from such a union? Woodville was a poet. He was sought for by every society, and all eyes were turned on him alone when he appeared. But he was the son of a poor clergyman, and Elinor was a rich heiress. Her guardian was not displeased with their mutual affection. The merit of Woodville was too eminent to admit of cavil on account of his inferior wealth, but the dying will of her father did not allow her to marry before she was of age, and her fortune depended upon her obeying this injunction. She had just entered her 20th year, and she and her lover were obliged to submit to this delay. But they were ever together, and their happiness seemed that of paradise. They studied together, formed plans of future occupations, and drinking in love and joy from each other's eyes and words, they hardly repined at the delay to their entire union. Woodville for ever rose in glory, and Elinor became more lovely and wise under the lessons of her accomplished lover. In 2 months Elinor would be 21. Everything was prepared for their union. How shall I relate the catastrophe to so much joy? But the earth would not be the earth. It is covered with blight and sorrow, if one such pair as these angelic creatures had been suffered to exist for one another. Search through the world, and you will not find the perfect happiness which their marriage would have caused them to enjoy. There must have been a revolution in the order of things as established among us miserable earth-dwellers to have admitted of such consummate joy. The chain of necessity ever bringing misery must have been broken, and the malignant fate that presides over it would not permit this breach of her eternal laws. But why should I repine at this? Misery was my element, and nothing but what was miserable could approach me. If Woodville had been happy, I should never have known him. And can I, who for many years was fed by tears and nourished under the dew of grief, can I pause to relate a tale of woe and death? Woodville was obliged to make a journey into the country, and was detained from day to day in irksome absence from his lovely bride. He received a letter from her to say that she was slightly ill, but telling him to hasten to her, that from his eyes she would receive health, and that his company would be her surest medicine. He was detained 3 days longer, and then he hastened to her. His heart, he knew not why, prognosticated misfortune. He had not heard from her again. He feared she might be worse, and this fear made him impatient and restless for the moment of beholding her once more stand before him, arrayed in health and beauty, for a sinister voice seemed always to whisper to him, "You will never more behold her as she was." When he arrived at her habitation, all was silent in it. He made his way through several rooms. In one he saw a servant weeping bitterly. He was faint with fear, and could hardly ask, "Is she dead?" and just listened to the dreadful answer, "Not yet." These astounding words came on him as of less fearful import than those which he had expected, and to learn that she was still in being, and that he might still hope, was an alleviation to him. He remembered the words of her letter, and he indulged the wild idea that his kisses, breathing warm love and life, would infuse new spirit into her, and that with him near her she could not die, that his presence was the talisman of her life. He hastened to her sick room. She lay, her cheeks burning with fever, yet her eyes were closed and she was seemingly senseless. He wrapped her in his arms. He imprinted breathless kisses on her burning lips. He called to her, in a voice of subdued anguish, by the tenderest names. "Return, Elinor. I am with you. Your life, your love. Return, dearest one. You promised me this boon, that I should bring you health. Let your sweet spirit revive. You cannot die near me. What is death? To see you no more, to part with what is a part of myself, without whom I have no memory and no futurity. Elinor, die. This is frenzy and the most miserable despair. You cannot die while I am near." And again he kissed her eyes and lips, and hung over her inanimate form in agony, gazing on her countenance, still lovely although changed, watching every slight convulsion and varying colour which denoted life, still lingering, although about to depart. Once, for a moment, she revived and recognized his voice. A smile, a last lovely smile, played upon her lips. He watched beside her for 12 hours, and then she died. End of chapter 9.